Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey Jason, Dylan Mel, John Pauline. Divisional round. We made it out of the wild card. My sadness, my despair last week was put on pause for a couple days until the Yankees decided, hey, what can make Corey feel worse? Going down 0-2 to the Blue Jays, a team that I have been down on for as long as we've been doing this show, a team I didn't believe in, a team I don't believe in, I still don't, and that's even what makes it even more frustrating. But before we get into the Yankees Blue Jays, I kind of want to go over how those wild card games, those series ended, and what we're looking at now. So the Cubs, they defeated the Padres. The four defeated the 5 seed, 2-1. That went to a game 3. Go Cubs, go! Right, Dylan?
Who believed in him?
Dylan believed in him.
I also believe in the Cubs.
Yeah, but that was Dylan's shtick. Dylan was fly the W.
Did I bet against them in game 2 to make some money? Maybe.
That's just because you believed in him so much that you can make money and be the guy that predicted them to win.
Yeah.
But now Milwaukee, the top seed, leads the Cubs 2-0.
What do you say, though? Series doesn't start until the home team loses.
It's true. It is very, very true. When the home team loses, that's when you have to panic.
Yeah. Or if you're the case of the Cubs or Yankees, you don't panic because it's over.
Or win your games at home and then take game 5.
Yep.
So what are our feelings from that series?
I think when you look at it from a Padres perspective, there is a sense of going back to the drawing board. I think they need some more reliable pitching. The lineup is good. It just didn't show up in a wild card sense, but that's why you don't want to be in a wild card spot. It sucks for them that they play in the division that they play in, but nobody from that division had a bye. So you were kind of just destined for a wild card anyways. I think if they had some more dependable starting pitching, they could have won that series with the Cubs. I do think it was 2 evenly matched teams. Now, saying that now and seeing how the Brewers are playing, I don't know if I think the Padres had a shot, but the star power at the top of that lineup does give them a shot on any day. But, their best game was game 2 with Dylan Cease on the mound, who was shaky all year. And for the Cubs, they also are a team who I don't necessarily believe in their starting pitching, and Milwaukee's hitting it like crazy right now. But they just were the home team. The juice was with them. The momentum was with them. And as much as we talk about analytics in baseball, momentum is a real thing. And I think that the home crowd in Chicago was really big for them. And I think it could be really big for them versus Milwaukee. I don't think that series is over. Obviously we're talking about other series here, but there's 2 divisional round series that are 2-0 right now. I'm not saying one of those teams is definitely going to come back and win it, but one of those teams is going to make it a fight.
I hope so, because honestly, for baseball as a sport, it's good when these series are competitive because you get more people watching, you get the juice, you have people feeling hopeful, and that's when they're going to, buy your merchandise. That's when they're going to watch your games. And at the end of the day, MLB wants what's best for the dollar, and having competitive series is what's best for it. Now, before we move on to that, Milwaukee Cubs, really trying to get an idea of where we think it's going, backtracking to the Padres, where do they go from here? Their season's over, high expectations, pretty high payroll. Michael King's a free agent. He didn't really live up to what they wanted this year. Where do they go? Do they look to rebuild, tear it down? Could we see Tatis on the move?
Yeah, I would have to take a look at the starting pitching free agency market. I haven't done kind of a deep dive on that because I've been in playoff mode. But I think that the Padres are not that far off. I know that they lost in the wild card round, but you look at their team. The bullpen, excellent, was the best bullpen in baseball in the second half of the year. That's great. Mason Miller was absolute nails in that wild card series when he went out there and pitched. He's a stud and he's young. You're going to have him for a long time to go. You could build your entire bullpen around him, basically. You have stars like Tatis and Merrill who are young that you could build the team around. Manny Machado is an older player, and maybe you eventually have to transition him to DH, but I don't think his defense at third base has gotten to the point where you're like, oh, we got to get him out of the lineup. Xander Bogaerts, he was actually a pretty solid playoff performer for the Padres in this series. So I think there's a lot of different pieces there. I would focus on building a better rotation that's more equipped to get you to a regular season 1 or 2 seed. That way you could really show the strength of your bullpen in pitching over the course of a longer series if you're San Diego. But I wouldn't be in tear down mode. Now, I know that there's a lot of controversy with their ownership going on. We kind of talked about that at the beginning of this season. If it was going to lead to a blow up, it didn't. So I don't think it will this offseason. But if I'm the Padres, as you know, sad as it is to lose in the wild card round, I'm kind of holding strong and making a couple minor adjustments to the rotation.
Now, going on to that Cubs-Brewers series, if the Cubs, who are down right now 2-0, were to come back, what would be the reason behind it? Who kind of leads that charge?
Kyle Tucker. I mean, you traded for him for a reason. You're hoping to give him a massive extension this offseason for a reason. This is supposed to be the best player on your team. This is supposed to be, and was for the first half of the year, an MVP candidate. It all is going to start with his bat. Other bats will follow, but Michael Busch has been playing good football. Seiya Suzuki had the 3-run homer yesterday. PCA, his bat's been kind of hot and cold, but you know what he is defensively. Kyle Tucker has to be a consistent force in the middle of this Cubs lineup because the Brewers lineup is just so consistent all the way through, and your starting pitching is so limited that they're going to put up runs. You have to be able to match them if you're Chicago, and that falls at the feet of Kyle Tucker, in my opinion.
If Kyle Tucker doesn't perform this postseason, how much does that dampen his prospective free agency? Do the Cubs, back out and want to even giving him a big contract if he doesn't perform?
I think we could sit here and say today, maybe, do we want like that guy? But we've seen Tucker in big playoff games for the Astros before. We've seen him perform. We've seen him be great over the course of regular seasons. There's not many players in baseball that have the skill set that Kyle Tucker does. And at the end of the day, when we look at the free agency class, he's going to be the number one positional player out there. He's going to get a bag.
John, who do you think, if it's not Tucker, who would be the guy that leads the Cubs past the Brewers, winning the next 3 games in a row?
I don't think it's going to be like a singular guy. I think it's going to be, you're going to rely on their bullpen, like their pitching, as a whole has to just step up and literally outperform and not give up those runs. They have to shut down Milwaukee's lineup.
Now, if it was a pitcher's duel where Milwaukee's offense was stifled, do we give that edge to the Cubs, where the Cubs could probably win a closer, grittier game than the Brewers?
I would not.
I agree, but I think the
In
Cubs
Chicago, though?
I think the Cubs are going to have to find a way to win these games, 5-4, 6-5, maybe.
Cubs aren't winning 1-0.
Yeah, no. I think the lowest I think the minimum amount of runs the Cubs need to win these games is 4. I think if you don't score 4, you're probably screwed.
Now, if the Brewers were able to hold on, win this game 3, because the next time we talk about this, it will be the championship series time. These divisional round, this will be concluded by our next episode. So if the Brewers are able to hold on and win, who's the guy that we really cement as he's the one who led the Brewers to the round before the World Series? He's the guy.
I think that's the thing about this Brewers team. It's a cop-out answer. I don't think there is one. I think that there's a lot of really great players. I think, obviously, if you look at the way that guys are playing right now, Jackson Chourio has been the best player on the team up until this point, but it's not like that they have, a shortage of talent. Christian Yelich is batting .500 right now with 4 hits. William Contreras is batting .444 with a 2-run homer. You just keep going down the lineup. Blake Perkins batting .375 right now in the postseason, which is just pretty much the series, but it's what the Brewers have been doing all year. It is a team effort. And I think that that's what makes them so dangerous against anybody.
Now, let's predict this. Again, the Brewers are up 2-0. How does this series end? Who wins and how many games?
Yeah, so looking at it tomorrow, which is today for the people that are watching this, or it's already happened, I would guess that the Cubs win game 3. Jameson Taillon's on the mound. He's actually been really solid for them in the second half of the season, whereas Brewster for the Brewers is a bit unproven, in my opinion. And we don't have game 4 starters announced right now. I don't know if that means we could expect to go back to a Freddie Peralta because of the extra day off, or if they would save Freddie for a game 5. I think maybe the Brewers will try and close it out in 4. I'm going to bet that that's where we go. I'm going to say Milwaukee in 4 with Peralta on the mound on the road. Even if the Cubs are going to end up having to throw Matthew Boyd out in one of these games, and I just don't think that's good enough to compete with Peralta.
I'm going to say Brewers in 3. Sometimes it's just over. And this is kind of the feeling I'm getting where the Brewers, brooded their way into just being the best offense in baseball right now. But everybody's doing it. Everybody's on. It's not like we're waiting on somebody to wake up and having other guys carry. Everybody's hot right now. And I just can't see an off day stopping that train. What about you, John?
I'm with you, Corey. I mean, I just feel like it with a lot of these playoff series right now, I just feel like a lot of them are almost pretty much over. Like, I mean, not much hope for many of these teams, especially. I mean, because it's really hard. I mean, you can say they might claw back and win game 3 and then force the game 4 there, but like I don't see the Cubs winning. I think the Brewers either take it in game 3 or at game 4 at the minimum.
Now let's go on. Detroit, Cleveland. The 6 seed upset the 3 seed 2-1. Now Detroit, the lowest seed, is facing Seattle, the number 2 seed, but arguably the hottest team in all of baseball, or at the very least the American League. That series, as we stand right now, is tied 1-1. They're in a bit of a rain delay. We don't know if that game at the time of recording will be played today or if they will push everything back because they do have that off day between.
The game did start, by the way. It just started on FS2, like we had talked about in the pregame show. Rosarina led the game off with a single versus Seattle.
All right, so there we go. The game is started. They did have that off day in their pocket in case they really needed to, but they were going to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, Gilbert versus Flaherty, excuse me.
Going Detroit, Cleveland, wrapping up that wild card series. Detroit won game 1, Cleveland won game 2. Detroit took it in game 3. Detroit was struggling for most of September, and they seem to have finally turned it on versus a team that, they blew a 15-game lead to in the division. Cleveland snuck in there, usurped the division, got in there as the 3, and then kind of fell apart. So on the losing end side of Cleveland, is this season a success or a failure?
Neither.
It's like a tie in football, right? Like the Packers and Cowboys tied, and it kind of feels like that.
I mean, if you want to bring in a football reference, if the Pittsburgh Steelers get to the playoffs this year and lose in the wild card, is that a success or is that a failure? That's kind of what the Guardians have been, right? We know they're going to get to the playoffs. Maybe they win a series. Maybe they don't. Last year, I think getting to the ALCS was a definite win for them. So as it pertains to this season, obviously they got worse. So you could say that that's a failure in that sense. But I think the expectation for that team was to maybe win the division, which they did, and maybe host a playoff series, which they did. They didn't win, and you could, pick apart that series if you want to. I think just the advantage of Detroit having Tariq Skubal in such a smaller sample size series to be able to throw him out there in game 1 and kind of just be like, yep, we're up 1-0 in a 3-game set. Yes, kind of all that they needed.
It's just so tough because Cleveland started off so bad. Then you had the suspensions with Clase. It seemed like things were really falling apart. You really had J-Ram as your one lone consistent. Even Stephen Kwan did not have a year up to his standards. And, then to go on that run at the end of the year, win the division, it feels like, if you're a Guardians fan, you kind of leave with a bad taste in your mouth that, we ended up where we kind of thought we were going to be at the beginning of the year. but it's a long season. And so to get there at the end, after seeing the journey, you were kind of hoping for more, especially knowing how, poorly Detroit was playing as the season wrapped up.
Yeah, I think losing the series to Detroit would make me lean a little bit towards failure if you're a Guardians fan, but I don't think if I was a Guardians fan, I'd be like, I hate this team, blow it all up. I think I'd be like, yeah, we lost our closer mid-season, didn't really expect that, had to shift apart the bullpen. I think that was post-trade deadline too, right? Or was that
pre-deadline where people thought they were going to be selling possibly?
Pre-deadline, but before you went on a run, so you weren't exactly buyers to make your team better and like sharpen up the bullpen. So I think if you're Cleveland after 2 successful years of winning this division, I would probably be in this offseason on being buyers and trying to like really go in on J-Ram and this squad because you did get some really solid pitching from your starters.
To be a pretty solid manager.
Yeah. I just think that this could be not everything's linear, right? You make an ALCS, you're losing a wild card, and then maybe next year's your year if you make a couple of the right moves around the edges. Similar to the Padres. There's too many good pieces in this team for me to be like sell.
Now, you brought up the Padres. I know they're both in different leagues, different situations. If you had to pick one of the two to be in on, like if you had to buy on one of the two teams, who would you buy?
I would buy on the Padres. I don't know what the situation is with Class A, so I favor their bullpen. And in today's major leagues, you need a good bullpen. And in terms of hitting, I think they have more bats. Tatis, Merrill, Machado, Bogarts. In Cleveland, you have J-Ram, you have Kwan, who had a down year, like you mentioned. I think San Diego's a little bit better, but San Diego is in the NL, which is a tougher place to play. So I think that it's possible next year Cleveland makes it further than them with the worst lineup.
So now Detroit, they knocked out Cleveland. They're kind of righting the ship. We know Hinch is a great manager. Going back to his days in, Houston, we've known that he's going to get there. He brought a very overachieving Detroit team last year to the ALDS. He's back there now versus a really resurgent Mariners. That series is tied 1-1. One team will have the edge after tonight. But as we are right now, who on Detroit do you think is the one they need to really lean on in order to win this series?
My answer to this gives away my prediction. So I don't know if you want to answer this, John, and then I'll just kind of go into my prediction after that.
What's it?
John is pulling a Philadelphia Phillies right now, and I believe he is choking live on podcast.
Shots fired. So here, but I'll answer it on my end at least. I think if the Tigers are gonna win, I'd like to believe it would be a pitching, but I think it's gonna end up being a guy like Kerry Carpenter or Riley Green, Torkelson, one of those three guys.
Gleyber Torres.
Yes. Gleyber. Guy that Yankee fans are rooting for, I would assume.
Gleyber back to the ALCS, the Yankees sitting at home. He was always the key.
I don't know about you. I always like Gleyber. I'm rooting for him to do well. He's not somebody I have any ill will for.
I hated Gleyber as a leadoff hitter, but I liked Gleyber the person.
But I think one of those three guys, Green, Torkelson, Carpenter, I think somebody really steps up. And I think they're the one that leads Detroit to the next round if Detroit is the team to go through it.
Yeah.
Look, Detroit has to really rely, Corey has to really rely on the hitting, especially with, I think, how good Seattle's pitching is. So, they're really going to need to put runs up on the board there. So,
see, I view it the opposite. I think the Mariners' bats have to show up in Detroit. I think Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Eugenio Suarez, who...
Well, just if Detroit was the team to win. Not who you think, just if it is them winning, who is it?
My answer is Tariq Skubal in a Game 5 is who it is.
Gotcha.
And that's where I see this going. So I'll get into the prediction. I think Detroit takes one at home. I think they split there. And in a Game 5, I'm not betting against Tariq Skubal.
I am with you 100%. I also have Detroit in 5. for that very same reason that if you get to 5, Skubal's the guy you want.
Like the Mariners have to win this in 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's nobody in baseball I want on the mound more in a game 5, do or die, than Tarek Skubal.
And he's got playoff experience under his belt now, twice.
Yeah. Now, before we get to John's prediction, let's say the Mariners do win, whether it's in 4 or whether it's in 5. Who leads the Mariners? Because I don't think it's going to be Cal Raleigh that leads them to a ALCS berth.
I think it's Julio Rodriguez. I think he stepped it up in the second half of the year. He's already shown pop in this series. He's a 5-tool player. Cal Raleigh might win the MVP this year, but if you could pick one player from the Mariners to have, you'd pick Julio Rodriguez. And I think Cal Raleigh had the best season. Julio Rodriguez is the best player on the team. I don't think that's a crazy statement to make.
Since the beginning of July, Julio has been a better player than Cal too. He's got better numbers, higher WAR. Cal has the home runs, but Julio has everything else. And I think that's huge for Seattle because
he might make a play in the field.
Exactly. And J-Rod's defense is pretty stellar. I like their outfield, Arozarena. They need a guy like Suarez to step up. But I think J-Rod, Dylan, I think you're right that he's the one that really leads them.
Yeah.
John, who do you think would lead Seattle? Who's like the guy they had to lean on?
Honestly, the guy they traded for, Eugenio Suarez. I mean, you traded for him for a reason. He hasn't really been producing since he's got there. He has to do something to help you out.
Yeah, I think he does need to step up. But John, me and Dylan both gave our predictions. Detroit in 5. Where does your mind go?
Detroit in 4.
Wow, not even Skubal in a game 5?
I don't think I'm going to need it.
Wow, that'd be so big for Detroit to be able to go into a CS with Skubal for games 1, potentially 4 and 7.
That would be massive, and I think that would make them possibly favorites in my mind versus any other team to get Skubal out there 3 times.
I mean, the Jays hit lefties well, so it'd be really interesting to see that matchup if we get there.
Now, John, I'll let you decide. Do you want to talk Yankees or Phillies next?
Let's do the Phillies.
All right.
Get it out.
So we'll start off with Dodgers Reds. 3-seed Dodgers are the only sweep we had in the wild card round. They swept the 6-seeded Reds 2-0. The Reds seem to be the one team in the playoffs where it's like they're the polar bear in Texas. They're the one team that didn't really fit when you look at the playoff lineup.
Yeah. I'll say.
The Reds deserved it. They were a team who I picked before the season to be that 6th seed. I thought they were a playoff caliber team. They just were the lowest possible end of what playoff caliber means.
Congratulations, Reds. This season was a win for you just by showing up to the dance.
It was a win. It's another notch in Terry Francona's, illustrious belt. Hall of Fame manager, somebody who has gotten multiple franchises to the playoffs. I think this is big for the Reds' future. I think they're a team that could compete for a playoff spot next year. They're a young team, a lot of young talent. Hunter Green getting playoff exposure. He's somebody who I really like, who I think has a Cy Young in his future if Paul Skeens is not in the National League. But we said that there's a win for the Reds. Do we think the Reds have it in them to repeat as a playoff team next year? Or do they just kind of stand pat in the offseason? What are our early expectations for them in 2026?
They have it in them. I don't think I'll predict it. I think Arizona got destroyed with injuries. I find it hard to believe that the Mets will have the highest payroll in baseball back-to-back years and miss the playoffs. San Francisco will now get, a full year of knowing the team with Devers.
Atlanta.
Yeah, they'll undoubtedly be healthier. So, it's not to say that the Reds can't do it because you never know with baseball. They're not an organization that's traditionally been big spenders. So progression for them is not linear and is not always, whoa, watch out for this team. But you got a superstar in Ellie. You got a definitive one in Hunter Green, and you got a great manager in Francona. The hard part's done, I'd say.
I mean, they're very likely to be in the playoffs next year, hanging around like that wild card spot again.
Oh yeah, they'll
So,
be in
like
the
they're
mix.
gonna be, they'll be in contention. I don't know if they're gonna win their division or anything, but they're gonna be at least at minimum in contention for that third wild card spot.
I think my issue with the Reds for next year, in their last 80 games, they were 40-40. They were the epitome of mid. And that's kind of more of a knock on the Mets as well, that they could not beat out a 500 ball club down the largest portion of the season, the last half of the year.
You know how to make a guy feel better, Corey.
But I think the Reds, they did not show crazy life at the end of the year. It's not like they went on a run like Cleveland or Seattle. They were kind of just in the middle. They were meh.
That's why I don't expect them to be big buyers.
They did just enough to win and make the playoffs, but they didn't win. They were, a 500 ball club for the latter half of the year. And very lucky at that. So if they're not going to buy, I think I'm going to be lower on them, at least at this point, than I was going into the year. And that's disappointing because it was a successful season.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, Dodgers, they're playing the Phillies. 3 seed versus the 2 seed. Dodgers are up 2-0. 3 of these wild divisional series are a 2-0 lead right now. Only one of them has been a series. But also only one of them has the higher seed on the losing end of this 2-0. So, John, the Phillies in a hole, 2-0. Where's our mind at right now?
No, they're gonna lose. It's over. I mean, the only hope I have is that they at least win. They at least win this next game here, so they don't get swept. I mean, I don't know. No one's that they're so bad. I mean, they are so. I mean, the pitching has been okay. Bullpen's not looking great. I mean, Turner, Schwarber, Harper are doing nothing. I think they have like 2 hits between the 3 of them. No extra base hits at all. Rob Thompson is. He's like the James Franklin of baseball right now. He's playing for a tie in a playoff game. It's bunting, playing for a tie in a playoff game at home, and you're not like, why just.
I mean, we'll talk about Phillies more to an extent if they miraculously come back or if they lose this series, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. Does Kyle Schwarber's playoff performance, we talked about, does Kyle Tucker get a ding in his pay? Man, this guy, all he could do is hit. Except he can't.
Well, I think it's gonna drive down the price. I mean, especially because I think he's been like 0-19.
Over his last 21.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, does this also make the Phillies less likely to sign him or more likely to sign him?
I don't think the likelihood of them signing him really changes much, because I mean, unless they're going to go and get someone else. I mean, I don't.
Can I tell you the truth? I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
If I was the Phillies, I wouldn't. If I was the Phillies, I would do everything I could to get Kyle Tucker on my team instead of him. This core has peaked at the Astros World Series, and it's been worse and worse each year.
I was just going to say, this is 2 back-to-back years now, possibly, with a divisional round loss to a team that could definitely beat.
But it's the top of the lineup. I mean, you're getting all you could ask for out of the bottom. JT Realmuto has a triple and a double from your catcher. Castellanos, a guy who came off the bench, has a big double. Bader has a big hit. Like, you're getting enough from the bottom of the lineup that if the top of the lineup showed up, it's probably 1-1.
I mean, it really is. It really is. I mean, they're the only part of the team who's not been performing. I mean, Harper, I think, comes up with runners on first and second or something. Like, these two men on base, and he struck out.
Yep.
I mean, Turner had 1 hit.
We'll talk about the Yankees in a second, but
I mean, they're swinging at pitches down and away. They're not even like.
Did I send you that tweet, Corey?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, the Phillies are just NL Yankees. That came across my timeline today, and I said, "Damn it!"
I mean, think about it. World Series loss, bounced by a division rival the next year, and then another just knockout the year after that.
Well, the Phillies lost that CS to the Diamondbacks,
Oh,
so
you're right.
theoretically, we should use if we're
We
on
should
the
lose
same
to the
track.
Mariners.
We should lose to the Mariners or Tigers in the CS. So if that makes you feel any better about where the Yankees are going, they might pull off this comeback.
Well, if the Phillies were to win this series, though, if they were to make that miraculous 3-0 comeback, it's happened before. It has.
Yeah.
There is a precedence for it. Who is the one guy that you would think is the one that leads them?
It would need to be Kyle Schwarber.
It has to be Schwarber or Harper at one of them. One of them.
One of those two has to start coming through. Everybody else, like the bottom of the lineup, has.
So,
and I'm not going to say Aaron Nola. And their starting pitching's been good. Luzardo was good. Sanchez was good.
Well, I was going to say, even if they had Wheeler, I don't know if this actually changes anything.
Does Wheeler maybe blank them? I guess that's possible, but
and then the bullpen maybe gives up. But I mean, you look at it. I mean, the first game, they went up 3-0 and then lost. This last game, they crawled back and made it 3-4, but couldn't get the
they're losing this series by a total of 3 runs, which is why it's not over, but it doesn't feel good.
It's just the top of the lineup has not been helping them out, and that's where they're falling short.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking last year about the Phillies bullpen. They went out and got Duran, and he's pitched pretty well this year.
Yeah, but in spots that don't matter.
Right, because you're not –
I mean, he's pitched well in the regular season for them in spots that mattered, but you're not getting to him with leads.
And that's what you really just need to do, get the ball to the one guy you finally found you can trust.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, I mean, who isn't helping them?
The
fact their whole bullpen starting pitching.
Yeah, I don't even think you were in here. Me and Corey talked about this pre-show because you were running a little behind.
I was running late.
And I said to him, the one weakness of the Dodgers, they found a way to eliminate it. And Dave Roberts almost found a way to bring it back by, for some reason, not going to Sasaki in the 9th. I have no clue what the thought process was there with an off day the following day, but I digress. But you have Glasnow come out the bullpen in game 1. Sasaki, Kershaw, we've seen him in the bullpen. The weakness of your team, you just changed with starting pitchers who came out and looked like they've been in the bullpen their whole lives.
And this is why you never say we have too much starting pitching. This is why
usually they don't come out and looking like elite closers. Sasaki comes out and you think he led the majors in saves this year.
It's insane, especially because I don't really believe that Dave Roberts is a great manager.
Well, he almost fumbled away game 2 by being a bad manager. What are you doing putting Trinan out there in that spot? This isn't. I was watching the pregame show on FS1 today with Jeter, A-Rod, David Ortiz. They all agreed on this sentiment. You don't win playoff series by saying, we got this, by thinking, yeah, we could afford to play around with this game. The team that wins is the team that treats every game like must win. And the Dodgers treated the end of that game, too, like they could play around and see if Trinan would be good enough, and it almost cost them the game. If it wasn't for a really interesting decision to bunt, but then a great play from Muncy and Betts on the bunt, and then Freddie Freeman being 8 foot tall, apparently, to dig out that ball, they think about the way we'd be talking about Dave Roberts right now if that game just went just a little differently.
Yeah. It's frustrating because when you see a team that's basically firing on all cylinders, like you look at the Dodgers and you're like, yeah, I guess if you had to pick something to get better, maybe, Andy Pages, he's got 1 hit in his 17 at bats. He's the only guy in the Dodgers starting lineup that's hitting, with a below average OPS. Everybody else, the next lowest is 729 and Max Muncy. So even though he's hitting 200, they're all getting on base. They're all working counts.
Like they all have fine OPSs, but like Ohtani's batting 222.
But he's got 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. So like,
yeah, but those came against the Reds. The 1 RBI
Yeah.
came against the Phillies. Like Ohtani was, I think, 0 for 4, 0 for 5 in game 1 with 4 strikeouts. Freddie Freeman's batting 267, which isn't bad, but it's not good for Freddie Freeman.
no, but in a short sample size,
Like-
they're doing more than other teams.
Yeah, I mean, just as just a team that continuously adds talent, and Teoscar Hernandez, it turns into Barry Bonds when the playoffs start for this team.
At what point do we start to have the conversation about Ohtani as not a playoff performer? Like,
I mean, he was a playoff pitcher, but he did give up 3 runs, so it wasn't
right. So did
perfect.
Rodon, and nobody's saying Rodon had a great outing in his first time out. So, I mean, why does Aaron Judge have this notion that he can't perform in the postseason when Ohtani has done, was a worse player in the World Series than Judge was offensively last year?
Because he won.
Because he won, but nobody was even talking about the issues going into that series.
It's because he picked the right team. Winning cures all.
It's
It's a common phrase in the NFL, but it's everywhere. If they lose to the Brewers, and Ohtani does what he's doing now, or if the Phillies come back and Ohtani is doing what he's doing now, it will be talked about. The same way it's talked about with Juan Soto, the fact that the Mets didn't make the playoffs after giving him all that money, as if Juan Soto had a bad year.
Right. So let's make our predictions for Dodgers Phillies. John, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little hopeful here and say the Dodgers win in 4. At least the Phillies win 1, so that's not a clean sweep. I'm not very high. I just hope they take 1, and even that I'm not too confident with how they're playing.
I can't believe that the Phillies are going to win a game in which it's in LA, Yamamoto versus Nola. If the Phillies win game 3, I'll believe that they could come back and win it all, but give me Dodgers in 3, which is so unfortunate because I did think that this was set up to be just a fantastic series as a baseball fan.
Yeah, I think the fact that they're going back to LA is what's going to cause me to say Dodgers in 3. I just think it's going to be so tough to win a game there. Whereas, at least for the Cubs and the Yankees, they're at least going back to their own home where the crowd's on their side. They have a little extra juice. I think that's going to make it so much more difficult for the Phillies being the away team. But again, it's happened before. But going on Yankees, Red Sox, Yankees lost game 1. We came on here. I was pretty dejected. I was very upset. Then the Yankees came back and decided to be the first team to ever win the 3-game wild card set after going down 0-1, winning the next 2. So we can cross that off on a never happened list. The Yankees finally did it. But now they're back in that hole, down 2-0 versus Toronto. Let's wrap a bow on the wild card round with the final series. Yankees, Red Sox. You had a fine game from Rodon. I was at that wild card game too. Gave up 3 runs. Judge went ahead with a single. The Red Sox then came back. Then the Yankees took that lead in game 2. They won 5-4. Then we had, the Schlittler game, as I think it needs to be called. 8 just dominant innings.
Yep.
Dylan, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about this, and he told me I was crazy for thinking this.
Are we going to talk about Boston the way we talked about the other teams?
Yes,
Okay.
we do, and this is going to lead into that. I think Aaron Boone outmanaged Alex Cora overall that series.
Yeah, I think that these playoffs, Boone has done nothing that has given me a moment of why would you do that?
Which is weird because you almost expect it out of Boone.
Yeah, I think there was, I believe, a sense in game 1 versus Boston of like, oh, should he have taken Fried out? And we talked about that at the time. I thought Fried was losing control, and I thought Boone knows him and made the pull, and I thought it was the correct thing to do so. Fried's game versus Toronto obviously doesn't make us think that Boone was maybe wrong in that sense, because you can see in these spots maybe he tenses up and loses a little bit of control. I don't know if I would say outmanaged. I would say he and this is a compliment to Boone, went par to par with Cora.
Now, the fact that Alex Cora is being talked about as just as good or possibly even outmanaged by Aaron Boone, says a lot about how the Red Sox season went. They were down.
I don't think Cora did a bad job. I think that Boone
There were a
is
couple
doing a good
moments
job
that
finally.
I think really made me scratch my head with Cora. Namely, he took Bayo out very early and used a lot of his really good bullpen arms.
Yeah.
He was bunting Ceddanne Rafaela, who was benched earlier in the year for not knowing how to bunt in a spot where you had first and second, no outs.
The bunt's a bad one.
So to me, those are two really big ones from a nice to win, not must win game 2 from Boston that put them in a really bad spot, at least the pitching wise, for game 3, because now you needed a bulk bullpen day. And we've seen year after year overexposure from the bullpen kills teams.
Yep.
Now, it didn't bite them too much in game 3, but it put them in a bad position.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are fair criticisms. Maybe Boone did outmanage him. Now that we're kind of rehashing it, it feels like forever ago that the series happened,
Yes.
to be completely honest with you. For Boston in the future, I wouldn't be looking to make a change at manager by any means.
Absolutely not.
And I think that they're good to keep rolling. I think maybe you bring in another starting pitcher this offseason, but Roman Anthony will be healthy. Bregman, I would extend Bregman, bring him back, and keep it rolling. Maybe you may be able to move Duran for another bullpen arm just because the outfield's a little crowded. But
the Red Sox are in a really good position.
Yeah, I was telling somebody that is a Red Sox fan, one of my buddies, and if there's Blue Jays fans that watch this, they're going to be so heated at what I'm about to say. But I told him, I said, I think it's us and you guys for the next half decade.
It's kind of sad how the Blue Jays won the AL East. They're kicking the Yankees' butts right now, and I don't think either of us believe in them at all.
Long term.
You can catch lightning in a bottle, and that might just be what this is.
Yeah.
What's different about the Blue Jays this year versus last year?
I think Vladdy has become a better player. I think that the lineup, I do like their manager. I think that they have a really solid. His name's losing my mind right now. I don't know if you have it. Schneider. I think he is really good. I think he's a really good culture guy. I think you could tell that the team rallies around him. Even this game versus New York, he said, "I only brought one hat." Like he is in win now mode, and very much you could tell the team carries that energy. So I do think that that's a good sign there. Yesavaj, if I'm saying that right, that guy's a monster.
Savage was insane.
Yeah, Savage, they might have their ace of the future. Outside of him, I don't know where their starting pitching is next year. Gossman's getting older. Bieber's pitching tonight, but you can't really rely on Bieber for next year.
No.
And you had a career year for Bo Bichette, a career year
agent now, by the way.
A career year for Vladdy. Not in home runs, but I think this is the best version of Vladdy we've ever seen.
Looked insane.
A lot of things to keep up in the next year that I'm not saying that I don't think that they can, but they've been anomalies up until this point of what we've seen. So it's kind of I need to see it for a second 162 to believe it. And maybe that's fair, maybe it's not. But I also don't believe in their bullpen. The Yankees just haven't had a chance to get to it because the Blue Jays bats have been ridiculous.
Yeah, bringing in their closer in game 2 was an interesting move, to say the least.
I thought that was a bad choice.
That was a very, very bad choice.
I don't know if it's actually going to come back to burn them, but it could.
You why put yourself in that position where the Yankees bats saw your closer in a game you didn't need a save in? I get you wanted to get him work after not pitching for a while, but it just seems like if the Yankees can make it a series, they'll be seeing him a lot. And we know how that happened to Cleveland last year with all their high leverage arms, where the Yankees just ended up seeing them too much. And that's one of the things Judge and Stanton and Bellinger are really good about is when they see a pitcher a lot being able to hit them.
Yeah. This is the series that I don't think it's over. And I don't think it's over for a couple of reasons. One, I think the Yankees have the starting pitching advantage the next 2 days. I would take Rodon over Bieber, and the Blue Jays have basically announced if there's a game 4, it's a bullpen day. So I would take Schlittler over the Blue Jays bullpen. Game 5, obviously, Gausman Fried. We'll talk about that in just a second. 2, the Yankees are at home energy there. We talked about it with the Cubs, but I think momentum's a real thing. There's a lot of analytics in baseball. You can't track momentum. And I think momentum could certainly be there for the Yankees. And I think the Yankees got some momentum in game 2. I know it was against the Blue Jays, like crappy bullpen arms that they wouldn't use in high leverage spots. But for the first time this postseason, the Yankees saw hits stringing together. And a team like this, who in baseball this year proved that they can score runs with the best of them. This season they had the second best run differential in all of baseball. They scored 764 runs, 849 runs on the year, which was number 1 in baseball. If that lineup gets hot, there isn't a lineup more dangerous right now. So I do think that there are a couple of things in the Yankees' favor to extend this series. It would have to be a collaborative effort. I know we've been doing if a one person could do it, I guess I would say Rodon, just because he absolutely has to shove in game 3.
I think that's the right answer. It needs to be on the back of Rodon. And now the Blue Jays, like you said, they hit lefties really well. Vladdy's numbers in his career against Rodon are pretty insane.
This is going to sound insane. I'd walk him. I'd intentionally walk him 2 outs, base open. Like, I would give him prime Barry Bonds. The guy is playing like prime Barry Bonds, and especially in the first inning of this game, man, because the Blue Jays are going to bat first. If you get 2 outs and Vladdy's up and he hits a solo homer, just like that, all the energy is sucked out of Yankee Stadium. If you get the first 2 outs, I'm not against walking Vlad Guerrero and just seeing if the next guy could beat you.
Yeah, I mean, and if I had to pick somebody other than Guerrero that scares me, it's Alejandro Kirk.
Varshaw's been pretty solid.
Varshaw's been great, but Kirk's bat this series,
he ended the year on a really hot streak, and you wonder if that's going to hold up when you have a bye. It seems like it did for him.
And Kirk's always been a Yankee killer.
Yeah, we also do need, in my opinion, Giancarlo Stanton to step up.
Yeah, all that playoff Stanton talk, he lost every bit of goodwill he's ever had in the playoffs.
Oh, I don't know about all that, but
now playoff Stanton is said in jest. It's a joke.
I don't think every bit of goodwill, but I do think when you think about playoff Stanton, there's going to be but that 2025 run if things don't turn around.
And then, you have Aaron Judge, who all last year was he couldn't hit the ball.
Aaron Judge is
postseason hits. He's hitting 444.
I love Aaron Judge, and I'm a Yankees fan. These are some fake stats. If I've seen them, if I've ever seen fake stats, these are fake stats.
He does have
in game 1 with the bases loaded. Where was he? Same for Stanton, but where were they? Cody Bellinger brings them the only run on a walk. There was no outs.
You're right. He hasn't stepped up when it.
I know it's not like a guy that's batting 444 to judge him off of one at bat feels silly, but that at bat, he's continuously doesn't come through.
Right. He has 2 at bats where we scored a run. He's come through with runners on.
Yeah, it's a lot of bases empty singles.
So outside of Rodon, I think it does have to be Judge that leads us. He's our guy.
Yeah.
Even if he's having a good postseason, last year, the average wasn't there, but he had some pretty big home runs. He had that game-tying home run off of Class A in the ALCS. He had those moments.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, they could still happen.
They could still happen. A nice, 3 for 4 day with a home run and a double and 3 RBIs will quiet a lot of people today.
Yeah, it absolutely would. And Bieber, his splits are actually, he's better against lefties than righties.
Bieber, Stanton has had great postseason success against Bieber, going back to that, was it 2020 ALDS, where he hit, I think, 2 home runs when Bieber was a Cy Young pitcher.
For all the teams that are down 2-0, and every day you got to go 1-0.
Can you name the last time a team has come from a 2-0 deficit in the ALDS?
I know the last time the Yankees did it was 2017, so I'm just going to give that as my answer.
That was the last time, from my research, any MLB team has come back from that. And
Judge said it. He said he's done it before.
Yeah, I have a very cynical friend who was always very down on the Yankees, but in the most realistic way possible, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And he said that for some reason that Judge comment after Game 2 really fired him up, because you can tell how genuine Judge is being. He wasn't doing, Aaron Judge captain speak.
I tried to. That's why I brought it up. I think those hits at the end of Game 2, even though it was off of guys that won't be in high leverage spots, it reminded them, like, hey, when we get rolling, we're good.
Right, and I think that's going to happen. Grisham's been very disappointing. He's ending such a great year on such a bad note, whereas there's only one player offensively in the Yankees that you can really say did their job, and that's the one that all regular season everybody clowned. Isn't it funny how things like that shape up?
I think Austin Wells did his job. I know I know the numbers aren't there. I think Wells has had some good at bats.
But the fact that Volpe is your most consistent, like he's the guy.
I think he homers tonight.
I think that would be really fun. Maybe Volpe's just a playoff hitter.
I think listen, for all the crap we give Volpe, I think he has the clutch gene. Guy hit a grand slam in the World Series last year.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it.
Like I think he's got that.
And that's, something really important, and we just need more of those. So let's give our predictions.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it. I think the Yankees win the next 2. I think it comes down to a Game 5. Unfortunately, in Toronto, the Toronto Blue Jays are, what is it, 54-27 this year, the best record at home of any team.
Yep.
Those are 2017 Astros numbers at home. I'm just throwing it out there. A team
They
that's
have
really
no
good.
carryover players, though, right? No outfielder that played for both teams.
I'm not saying that is what it is. I'm just saying where the similarities lie. And Gossman absolutely shoved in Game 1. A lot of Yankees, including my doppelganger Ben Rice, could not do anything against him. And Max Fried looked terrible in Game 2. I'd hope that they prove me wrong. Anything could happen in a winner takes all, but I've got the Jays in 5, unfortunately.
John?
I just think the Blue Jays are just on a tear right now. They're really hot. Bats are really hot. I think they win in 3.
Wow.
I think a lot of these series
I
are
predicted
over.
it for the Dodgers, so I understand.
Yeah, so did I, and I think that's payback for us. I'm going Toronto in 4. I think we get that gentleman sweep.
No, it's Schlittler.
I think Schlittler off a high on his, big game.
I think it's 3 or 5. I don't. 4 is the game I'd be most.
Looks like a rookie.
Game 4 is the one I'd be most confident in. That's why I'm very surprised you went with this. Schlittler, who clearly is made for moments like this, versus a bullpen day.
Yeah,
like Toronto's doing a bullpen day.
About how Schlittler will bounce back from,
and that would mean they won tonight.
Career high in innings pitched in a game, career high in innings in pitches thrown. The Yankees don't tend to do well in bullpen days because it's so many new arms, so many new angles that they're going to struggle. I think that there's a very strong chance if it's not in 3, it'll be in 4. But let's kind of go on and wrap up all this by talking about our playoff studs and duds. So let's go. Who is your LVP, your least valuable player of the postseason? For me, it's going to be Luke Weaver. He's 0-1 with a 1.35 ERA. Now not 1.35, 135.00. 3 games, he only finished a third of an inning. He finally got an out in his 3rd outing after 2 of no outs recorded. It's only been 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 0 strikeouts. We want to take a guess at what other teams are hitting against him. Their batting average against Weaver is 800 in the postseason.
Yeah, good pick. Good pick.
That's
Mine is Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies. 7 at bats, 0 for 7, 5 strikeouts. Man, it feels like Kyle Schwarber hasn't even hit a baseball. I got to be honest. As somebody who's watched the games, I'm surprised that's not 7 of 7 on strikeouts. I seriously can't remember him getting out in any other way in this series against the Dodgers. He's 0 for his last 21. He's just been terrible. And a guy who's a designated hitter, I can't be talking about his batting average 0.
Who's your LVP, John?
Genio Suarez, just zeros across the board. 8 at bats, just all 0. Just zeros everywhere. 0 batting average, 0 runs scored, 0 hits, 0 RBIs, 0 OPS, all zeros. Just has done absolutely nothing.
And right now, it's not like they need him to. Seattle currently up 2-0. So maybe he's just somebody that'll get carried.
Yeah.
He got walked. He's a walk.
Well, look at that. That's not a 0.
So that's something.
I mean, Julio Rodriguez, who we talked about, is up in the top of the 3rd with no outs and runners on 1st and 2nd. So
Now, my MVP currently in the postseason, and that's encompassing every round, not just this current one. It's going to be Teoscar Hernandez. Dylan talked about him a bit earlier. 4 games, 17 at bats. He's got 7 hits, 3 of them going over the fence for homers, 9 RBIs. 9 RBIs in 4 games. In the postseason, that's everything and more you can ask for from a player. He's hitting .412, a 1.444 OPS. He's not even carrying the Dodgers. They have everybody firing on all cylinders. He's just been the best of the best on a really good team.
yeah, I think that's the right pick. It's what I would have picked if Corey hadn't picked it. Instead, I'm going Vlad Guerrero Jr., 6 for 9, batting .667 this postseason against the Yankees. 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, the most obvious grand slam that ever existed. I think every Yankees fan called it before it even happened. He's got a 193 OPS. And like I said, coming from a Yankees fan, I just suggested we should walk him with nobody on base. If that doesn't tell you the kind of postseason that Vladdy's had thus far, I don't know what will. And, by the way, he's been great defensively.
John, who's your guy? Who's your MVP?
Jackson Churio is batting .714, 7 at bats, 5 hits, 2 runs scored. He has 6 RBIs, an 2,000 OPS, 714 OBP. I mean, it's only 2 games, but he's really, really done a lot.
The guy went 3 for 3 in game 1, left with an injury. And they just came back the next day and was amazing.
That's fun when you can have a guy like that, just battle and just be great. But that's going to do it for us. We'll be back talking some AL, NL, CS. We're getting to the point where it's going to be World Series talk. The season's wrapping up. It's bittersweet. It'll be very, very bitter if the Yankees aren't still in the playoffs, aren't still alive next week. Same for the Phillies. John, throw that for you. If the Yankees and Phillies are both knocked out.
One of them's got to stay alive.
Has to. My bet's on the Yankees. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the Yankees.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll just be the Cubs somehow.
Yeah, it's going to be a really sad time for us, going into the season with 3 of our teams all being potential World Series contenders and then none making it to the Final 4.
Well, could be worse.
Could be worse, but it could be better.
Could be the 4th guy.
Would be better. But that'll do it for us. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Phils. Yanks on tonight. Rodon.
You guys will know our fate. You guys, when you're seeing this Wednesday at noon or whenever you're watching it after that, already know what happened to the Yankees.
Rodon legacy game. Aaron Judge 09 postseason run starts now. Dylan Mel, John Pauline, Corey Jason. This has been the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Signing off.